A former ICE director explains how separated children can easily become orphans. President Trump&apos zero-tolerance immigration policy has ripped thousands of children, some as young as 3 months old, from their migrant parents. Trump claims his new executive order will suspend child-parent separations, in favor of family detention at federal internment camps. But the administration has given contradictory accounts of what will happen to the children who have already undergone separation. Immigration hawks and war on terror monsters alike are using President Trump's revolting present to expiate past sins. On Wednesday, administration officials told reporters no special effort would be made to return these children to their parents. On Thursday, Trump said he was directing government agencies to work to reunite these previously separated groups. Yet the president, who lies constantly, undercut that assurance later in the same meeting, insisting his executive order was limited, and adding, "No matter how you cut it, it leads to separation ultimately." John Sandberg, who served as acting ICE director under President Obama, tells Rolling Stone, "There&apos a very high risk of permanent separation for the families that were ripped apart. Migrant parents could easily lose legal custody," he says, in a Kafkaesque tangle of American bureaucracies. Trump on Friday mocked the migrants&apos, phony stories of sadness and grief. To understand the plight of the families affected by Trump&apos initiative, which Amnesty International has condemned as nothing short of torture, it&apos critical to understand that once family units are broken apart, parents and children are in the hands of two separate bureaucracies. Here&apos how the process typically goes. Parents are detained by ICE within the Department of Homeland Security, the children are handed over to the Department of Health and Human Services, and are now considered unaccompanied minors. Some of the children have extended family in America who can provide a home for them. For the rest, HHS seeks foster care placements, anywhere in the U.S. that can accommodate them. They&apos reflying these kids all over the country, says Sandberg. The government is not equipped to keep track of the broken family units as they proceed separately through the adjudication and/or deportation process. It&apos really hard, logistically, to do this, to track movements of everybody, to match IDs, Sandberg says. And if you&apos got two separate agencies doing it, it&apos really hard, even if you&apos planned it. I&apos am seeing no signs that any of this was well planned. For parents who&apos already been deported, Sandberg adds, there is no agency that&apos now tracking the parent in Honduras. In other words, even if the Trump administration wanted to fly the child back home, Sandberg says, there&apos no guarantee the government knows what to send them. Migrant parents held in detention are on a fast track for deportation, receiving a trial on their immigration status within weeks of crossing the border. Some desperate parents, Sandberg says, may have already been pressured into abandoning asylum claims and voluntarily accepting removal from the United States, in the mistaken belief that this would speed reunification with an infant child. But this is a false hope. There&apos no mechanism for ICE to track the location of the baby, and ICE isn't&apos going to wait for HHS to find that kid and bring that kid down to McAllen, Texas, and pair them with the parent, and then fly the two of them back to Guatemala or Honduras. That&apos not how it works, Sandberg says. ICE gets the final order of removal, and ICE is going to execute that removal order as quickly as possible. You need to free up that detention bed for somebody else. That&apos what it&apos all about. The nightmare continues once parents return to their home countries without their children. Unlike adults, unaccompanied migrant children are a low priority for deportation. It can take years for a child&apos asylum case to wend its way before an immigration judge. If the child is now in the foster care system, he or she is a ward of whatever state HHS sent him or her to. and the state court system has to designate the legal guardian to make ongoing decisions about the welfare of the child. Sandberg presents a heartbreaking scenario. The parent is back to Honduras. They want their child back, but there and oppose no effective means of finding out where the child is, he says. In state court hearings, the deported parents are then punished for being out of country. The parent has no way, legally or financially, to return to the United States to appear in state court proceedings where the guardianship of their child is being decided, Sandberg says. Because the feds deported the parent, courts usually deem the child to have been abandoned, legally speaking. Parental rights are then severed, often permanently, says Sandberg. Now, the parent has no legal authority to mandate return of